Hello everyone, a warm welcome to this session. I'm Piyush. I'm going to be a main host today. So I see a few questions. The session has started, Himanshu and Akash. So I would just request all of you to kind of let me know if you can hear me loud and clear. If you can hear me loud and we are good to go ahead and get started with the session. So I see about 24 people live in the session today. Today is going to be a very interesting session in which we are going to help you in understanding how to kind of boost your GMAT score by up to 100 points in the last 30 days. Like five tips, five simple yet very effective things that can be done in the last 30 days to kind of improve your score. So if you can hear me clearly, do let me know in the chat. That way I will know that we are good to get started with the session without any further ado. So do let me know if my audio is loud and clear. And a warm welcome to all of you. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, based on wherever you are. Uh, would love to hear from you guys if you can hear me loud and clear. Okay, so I've done a secondary audio check from my side as well on this channel. Seems like my audio is fine. But yeah, in case you face any issues with the audio, do let me know. So I'm Piyush, I'm a strategy consultant at GMAT Wiz, and I'm going to be your main host in the session today. A little bit about myself, and please, guys, you can feel free to go and share about yourself, your current state of preparation. It will be great to hear from you. So a little bit about myself. I have been in the industry for more than 9 years now. I've helped multiple students, like hundreds and thousands of students, get into top tier these schools globally. And I scored a 740 on the GMAT myself in my very first attempt. And I love analyzing data and I love helping people coming up with the right strategies to ace the GMAT. So that's a brief about myself. I would definitely want to know what is the current stage of GMAT preparations. I have just four options in front of you. So you guys, based on your current stage of GMAT preparation, just can mention in the chat whether it is one, two, three, or four. And guys, I want this session to be very, very interactive. Like I have about 20 people live. I love when the sessions are interactive, and I have not kept a lot of slides in this session. I know there are still about 30 of them, but most of them are section dividers and all of that. I've kept the slides to the minimum possible today, and I'm trying a different thing where I want you guys to interact with me. I want the session to be a live session where I'm not the only person who is speaking. You are the people who are interacting with me, asking your questions now, and all of that. So please feel free to interact. I want this to be an interactive session. I'm okay if I'm not able to discuss the agenda that I have decided, but I would love to answer your questions. That's more important because I think then you're going to take more and more away from the session. So please do let me know about your current state of preparation and do feel free to ask me any questions during the session as well. Okay, so Vinay is in stage two. So is Navya, which is about 1 or 2 months of prep. Okay, Sahil is yet to start, and so is Obey. Then Obey as well. Ashish and Sonia are 3 to 6 months into their preparation. Okay, sound is not very clear. Is that with other people as well? Is the same issue with the other people? Because I think my sound should be clear with this one. Okay. For stuck around 680 trying to break 700. Okay. So Vivin Chausia is someone who has been preparing for more than 6 months. Okay. So I see most of you and Akash also has been preparing for more than 6 months. Again, some of you might not be in the last 30 days before the test. So like some of you might be in a very early stage of your preparation also. So if you're in a very early stage of your preparation, probably there are many more things that probably you can do with your preparation. So it's not just about let's say the last minute things, because today's session is more about like not necessarily just the last minute, but like what are the things that you can do in the last 30 days. So one thing that I'm assuming over here is that those of you who are like going to take benefit from the session are basically the ones who are gonna basically be in the last stage of their preparation, as in you have gone through significant bit of your prep. So if you're still in a very early stage of your preparation, I'm giving you a link to a webinar series in which we have covered, like the first webinar itself is basically around how to get started with the GMAT preparation and all of that. And then there are multiple webinars on different strategies for critical reasoning, SC, Quant, PS, TS, all type of things. If you want to kind of go to this webinar series recordings, you can go through this. This will be more for people who are in one, basically. So if you're very new to the preparation, you will get more insights from there. This session, I'm going to assume that you have done a bit of effort on the test already. Okay, so you have prepared for the test a bit more. So it is more for people in the bracket of 2, 3, and 4, like more so for 3 and 4. But even for people in the second category, there are a lot of learnings that you can probably take for the future. Mayank has basically a question which is not related to what is happening over here right now. But which mocks to take, Mayank? Official ones, very close to the GMAT, definitely GMAT Wiz, even Manhattan mocks are pretty good. So these mocks you can definitely look at. Shani says, I want to move from 710 to 750. Definitely, Shani, you can definitely do that. A lot of discussion today is going to be around that. So thank you so much for letting me know. So I know that most of you are in 2, 3, and 4 categories, which is basically where the discussion is mostly centered. And the first category are few people, but if you are in the first category, this is a webinar series that you can definitely look at. So let's get going into the session. So as the title mentioned, that there are 5 tips that we're going to talk about. Number one, the first step basically is going to be the exam day pacing. Again, in my personal opinion, if you pace yourself during the exam day right, you can actually increase your score. Or let me not use the word increase, or basically let me use the word that you can actually get your score like at the right point where you can. Or you can basically stop yourself from not reducing your score by 40, 50 points, because there are people who make wrong decisions from the day of the test and they end up losing 40, 50 points, sometimes even 70, 80 points just because of those wrong decisions, because they're not ready for exam day pacing. So I'm going to help you in understanding what I mean by exam day pacing. The second thing where you can actually improve your score significantly is by getting a guide, a right guide, or a study buddy, any one of the two or both of them, basically. And a lot of people have done that. Ishani, just for a night, your idea, like I'm going to talk about a person who has improved from a 670 to a 750 in a month by actually doing the second point properly. The third thing, focused fine tuning. Again, a lot of you might know fine tuning. Fine tuning is about making sure that you work on the weak areas, but how do you do that in a focused manner? So that's another thing which can help you improve your score. And another thing which can help you improve your score is reviewing the solutions closely. Many people don't do this. Many people just focus on practicing more and more questions. They don't focus as much on the solution part of it and how to review them as well. And another thing is anxiety management, especially if you are from category 4 or even from category 3. A lot of people face this anxiety issues. So how do you tackle these anxiety issues? So if you combine all these 5 points which I'm going to talk about today, you can probably get your score up by up to 100 points. I've used during my preparation, I've used all these 5 in the last 30 days. In fact, point number 2 was something which I did a little while earlier, not just in the last 30 days, but these points helped me significantly and recommend this to all of my students, in fact, at GMAT Wiz. And that's one of the biggest reasons why we have been able to deliver about 100-point score improvement on an average in the industry, which is the highest, by the way. So we're going to talk about all these 4 points, 5 points. So let's get started with the first point itself. Now, what is this exam day pacing? So this exam day pacing is basically about delivering the best possible outcome on the day of the test, delivering the best possible performance on the actual day. That's basically about that's what exam day pacing means. But it comprises of 3 different elements. Okay, and please feel free to keep the comments coming in, keep your questions flowing freely. I'm more than happy to take them up as we speak. The first factor in this is basically pacing. Like you have to pace each quarter correctly. You have to pace each and every quarter correctly. That's very, very critical. I'm going to talk about that. The second angle is pausing under the time pressure. And I'm just telling you the pointers. I'm going to go into the depth of each of them. Basically, pausing means you take strategic pauses whenever there's a pressure situation and you don't just give in to that pressure. And then ordering the sections appropriately. That's something which is very critical also. Okay, now I see some comments on study buddy. So I guess there is a study buddy section on GMAT Club where you can actually like request for a study buddy, or you can just start a post on GMAT Club for a study buddy. Because I'm not sure in this chat you guys might not be able to share your email IDs or anything. But if you start a thread on GMAT Club, maybe in the general section of GMAT Club, you can actually find a proper study buddy. I was actually thinking of talking about as a point as we move forward. But since some of you are talking about that, we can actually continue that on GMAT Club channel, GMAT Club forums, basically. That way you will get many more study buddies options and all of that. So I'll talk about that as well, as I said, a little later. But let's first focus on how to pace each quarter correctly. Now, let me ask this question: like, what is the best pacing strategy that you guys know? Like, what is the pacing strategy that you guys follow? Please let me know in the chat. Like, what is the pacing strategy? When I say pacing strategy, how do you pace yourself during the test? Like, how do you divide your time, like in each quarter of the test or in each half of the test? Like, how do you pace yourself in general? Okay. All right. So I still don't see any comments. I guess there's a lag between my voice and your comments coming in. So in the meantime, you guys share your thoughts in the chat. Let me tell you some of the common pacing strategies that people follow. So one of the common pacing strategies is that they follow a linear pacing strategy. That okay, let's try to kind of give almost equal amount of time for each quarter. For example, in verbal, there are 36 questions. So divide the test. They divide the test in nine questions each, and they target about 18 minutes per section. Should not be 18, close to like 16, 17, because if you divide 65 by basically 4, you'll get something around 16 minutes, 16 point something minutes. But approximately, I'm saying they give about 18, 17, 18, 16 minutes. A linear timing strategy is what they follow, basically. Okay, so I'm seeing some responses. Rahul says I divide a available number of questions with 2 and subtract 2, 3 minutes. Okay, so you keep 2, 3 minutes of buffer is what he's saying. Take a deep breath, keep calm and start. Okay, that's great, Ashish. I like that thought. 17 questions in 30 minutes. So I guess you mean, Suraj, that in verbal section you try to do 17 questions in 30 minutes? Less than like 1.8 minutes per question is what you are coming to. By 30 minutes, I should be done with 50% of the questions, is what Sambhavna says. By dividing time 10 to 10 question slots. So, Akash, I think you mean to say that you equally divide the timing, right? More of like the linear pacing strategy. Okay, Bipin says I don't have a pacing strategy at all. So that's even the like that's something you have to work on, Bipin, because you should have a pacing strategy for sure. In fact, you should just look at different pacing strategies and try all of them and see which one works best for you. I'll tell you my recommended option and what we recommend to our students at GMAT Wiz. But there's another pacing strategy which is followed by a lot of people, which is start heavy strategy. They say, okay, I need to get the first quarter questions correct, so I need to kind of spend about 20-25 minutes. If it is, even if I'm spending 20 minutes per question, 25 minutes not per question, in the first 9 or 10 questions, I'm happy with that. Then the next 9 or 10 questions, again, I'm happy with 20 to 25 minutes. And whatever is left, I will manage with the last two sections. So there are people who follow pacing strategy 1, pacing strategy 2, and different pacing strategies also. Vinay says I take 1.5 minutes per question. Let me tell you, that's not, none of these two are the best pacing strategies. So right now what you see on the screen is basically a scorecard analysis that I show in many of my sessions. So I'm not going to get into depth of this, but I'm just showing you this. Generally, I ask people to predict the verbal score of the second student. So in this screen, what you see basically is are the verbal scores of two students. Like first student scored a verbal 42, which is a 96 percentile, if I remember correctly. And he has made a total of 8 mistakes: one in first quarter, two in second quarter, one in second quarter, third quarter, and four in last quarter. On the other hand, the student that you see on this side, the second student, has made a total of 5 mistakes, 3, 1, 1, and 0 in the 4 quarters, and his verbal score is 34. Generally, I ask people to predict the verbal scores, and like people are actually really surprised to see that huge a difference. Like the person has made 3 less mistakes, and still the verbal score is a 34. Right? That's too low compared to a 42. Look at the percentiles, like 96 percentile versus 71 percentile. This is basically a make or break thing. It can actually change the whole result for you. Your score can drop by about 60, 70 points there. And with 3 mistakes less. That's how the test works. You cannot afford to start on the wrong foot. That's for sure. That's something which is 100% sure. But does that mean that you divide the time equally? Not really. You should not be dividing the time equally. You should not be dividing the time in such a way that you are basically starting too heavy, as in you are taking too much time in the beginning and having too less time in the end. The right pacing strategy for timing strategy for verbal for the 4 quarters is like this. Again, this is for someone who is currently in the score range of less than verbal 40. If you are in the score range of less than verbal 40 or 42 also, till 42, this pacing strategy will work perfectly for you. If you are already in the score range of verbal 43, 44 and looking at 48, 49 in verbal or 51 in verbal, this pacing strategy is not going to work for you. You need to have a different pacing strategy, just to be clear. But I'm assuming that if you were at a verbal 42 plus kind of a score, you would not be attending this session anyway. So I'm focusing on the majority of the public. The best pacing strategy is that in the first quarter, you should be giving yourself about a minute 40 seconds on an average to solve a question. Even in the first quarter, 1.5 minutes per question is too aggressive. too aggressive a timeline, in my opinion. You should not take less time than what is supposed to be taken, and you should not be taking more time than what is supposed to be taken. Again, I'm not saying that you cannot do the first quarter questions correctly in less than like 1.5 minutes. I'm not saying that, but average time I recommend is 1 minute 40, because if you are doing the test correctly, if you are going through the test in the right way, most likely in the first quarter itself, there are going to be some 700 level questions which might be served to you. So overall, on an average, the timing for the first quarter should be about a minute 40. A minute 40 basically means if you are taking 9 questions, that is close to about 15 minutes basically that you are spending on those 9 questions approximately. Okay. So you're taking about 15 minutes, 0 to 15, you're spending over here approximately, and then 15 to about 33 you're spending over here. So in a way, when you're in the middle of the test, you kind of have like 65 minutes in verbal, so you have spent 50% of your time. Okay. But it's not linear. Understand it. Your time is going up. Now, why is this going up per question? Because that's how the difficulty level in GMAT will also go up. GMAT is also supposed to be adaptive in nature. So the difficulty level will go up in reality. Now, in the third quarter, the difficulty level will go up further. It will go to the 700. In fact, over here, you will not be getting anything less than 700 level question. Obviously, what I'm assuming over here is that you are going through the test in the right way. Like you are actually doing well on the test. If you're not doing well on the test, this won't work for you. So all this basic strategy will only work if you are prepared. Understand that. Now, for the third quarter, I recommend even 2 minutes 20 seconds on an average is fine, because over here, see, this spacing strategy means that about from 33 to about what 9 questions, right? I'm talking about, so it's about 18 and what 21. So about 54 minutes. Till the 54 minutes mark will be basically were still in quarter three. So last 9 questions you'll have 11 minutes left approximately. Last 9 questions we will have about 11 minutes left. That's what I'm telling you. Okay, that's fine. That's okay. Whatever you like, what I'm telling you right now over here is a different kind of a linear pacing strategy. 0 to 15 here, and it's not like you have to like stick to this itself. Feel free to kind of move away from this a little bit here and there. It's always possible, but this is the best way to pace yourself. So in the quarter four, you will actually get hard questions only. So obviously in 11 minutes, you cannot try to do all 9 questions. You will not be able to do that. So this is the average time which I'm telling you will be available with you. So what you should try to do in this 11 minutes is that maybe try to do 5 to 6 questions properly. Okay. Don't focus on the rest of them. Like just mark them randomly if that's okay as well. Okay. So I'll take up questions from Ashish, Somanti, and maybe Rahul as well. So what is important is that you kind of go in this particular sequence. Now, let me take up Rahul's question. Rahul says, I've seen many ESRs in which Q3 is usually easier than Q2. That's very true, Rahul. In fact, most of the ESRs that I also look at, Q3 is actually easier than Q2. But you have to understand why is that the case. If Q3 is easier than Q2, the reason for that is people make a lot of mistakes in Q2. Okay, so that is the case which actually leads Q3 to be easier than Q2, and these people generally don't score beyond a 40. Okay, so if you have seen many ESRs, probably you might have seen a lot of ESRs with people scoring 40 plus with this kind of a trend. People who score verbal 40 plus will mostly, in fact, in almost all cases, I have seen quarter three to be more difficult than quarter two. Always, because that's how the adaptive algorithm works. And obviously, you can set up a one-on-one discussion with me as well or my team as well to discuss that in depth. I will definitely love to help you help you understand all this in depth. But always remember that this will work in this way. I can understand, Rahul, you're saying that, okay, I looked at a 780 kind of a guy who scored a verbal 45 plus. So his Q2 would have been very, very hard. Okay, that's an exceptional case that you're talking about. And his Q3 will not be easy either. It might be less than Q2, what you're saying might be true. But in that case, what you need to understand is that even in his case, Q3 is going to be hard. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say. Focus on that. That is more important. All this timing strategy I'm telling you is tailored, is basically keeping in mind the increase in difficulty level. Okay, that is what you need to understand. Okay, guys. In case anyone has any question around this, please feel free to ask me now. Or I've also given a link to share, have a discussion with us. So Rahul, in case you want to have a discussion and understand this better, I'll definitely love to help you understand this better. Piyush, in the verbal section, there's a random pop-up of RC sometimes, and people like me are struggling at RC. Eventually, this makes me difficult for the next coming questions. What to do about it? So Ashish, my opinion, if that RC is coming in the last 9 or 10 questions, you probably can skip it. Otherwise, you cannot take risks with RC because they are consecutive questions. So you definitely need to get at least two of them correct. And if you're struggling with RCs, you cannot just get them right by skimming through the passage. You have to probably understand the passage better. You have to read the passage better. So my recommendation, Ashish, will be to improve your RC skills. That's the right solution. I have problem in concentrating on RC passages and CR at times. Once I can understand, I can get 95% questions correct. How to maintain focus meditation doesn't work for me. I'll talk about that, Sumanti. That's like a part of anxiety management things that I'm gonna talk about. All right. So yeah, so this is about the pacing strategy for verbal. The timeline wise, approximately for each section of SCCR and RC, you should time like about 1.5 minutes for SC, 2 minutes for CR, 150 for RC, and adjust the time downwards by 20 seconds for your strong area. So if SC is the strong area, you should take about 1 minute 10 seconds, and upwards for by 20 seconds for your weak areas, basically. Like now, what about quant? So in quant, in the 4 quarters, I recommend this spacing strategy: about 1 minute 30 seconds for first quarter. What I mean by that is approximately for the first 8 questions, maybe 0 to 12 minutes. That's all. For the next 8 questions, basically 12 to what about 7 questions, about 12 to 24 approximately. So this is what I'm recommending for quant overall because that's how the difficulty level will move for quant. Okay. Now, please understand this. Please understand this that solving just basically giving extra time in the beginning does not solve all problems. Many people come to me and say, okay, Piyush, I understand that in the GMAT, the first quarter matters a lot, so I'm going to give more time to the first quarter. Doesn't really solve the problem completely. I'm going to share an ESR with you. So this is one student I spoke to. And this student, what she did was she tried to get the first quarter questions correct by giving about 2 minutes per question in the first quarter itself. 2 minutes, I think 2 minutes, 10 seconds or something she gave. More than 2 minutes for sure. So basically, the first quarter itself, she exhausted a lot of time and she got like 100% of those questions correct. Okay, so Sahil says, so you mean to say that getting answers correct in Q1 and Q2 help a lot? Yes, I definitely mean to say that. But do I mean to say that you should get them right by giving them extra time? Definitely no, because if you are giving extra time over there, that means you are probably not skilled enough to get them right in optimal time. And that means you will actually fall in this particular use case which I'm showing you. So when you give that much time to the first quarter, sometimes you end up messing up in the second quarter. So this student, he actually saw the difficulty level rise up significantly because of the performance in the first quarter was 100%. So the difficulty level in the next quarter was great, like probably at this level, which was like 700 plus level right away from the second quarter itself. But then, because of lack of timing, like poor timing and all of that, the accuracy went downhill, and then you see the difficulty level going down basically from there. That's something which happens. Like you should not be able to actually you should not be giving yourself a lot of time on the let's say the first quarter alone. Okay, so that's something which you should basically be doing. Look at this student on the other hand. This is basically my ESR by the way. So I scored a 41. I timed myself correctly. Like if you see my difficulty level in the entire test was going up, almost up in every single quarter. So that's what you want to do. So just by giving more time to kind of the beginning of the test is not gonna help you get a very high score. Okay, so Rahul says I have Q1, Q2 of my quant as 100% each, and Q3 is 43%, Q4 is 0%. Guess my quant score. Okay, so difficult to guess is with just those percentage marks. I need to definitely look at the like the difficulty level chart as well. But most likely with the kind of scores that you are telling me, you should have scored about a 48 or 49. That's my guess, basically. 48 or 49. Lowest is 47, which is case, but less than 47, I'm not predicting with that kind of an accuracy. So anyway, so this is basically what I wanted to show you. So what I was trying to tell you was that you have to pace yourself in the right possible way, and that's basically this which I showed you for quant and this which I showed you for verbal. All right. So keep that in mind, guys. That's the first thing, pacing. Okay. What about the next thing? The next thing is pause. How when to pause when you are actually having time pressure. Okay. So Rahul says it is 48. Happy to know that I was able to guess it right. So that's good to know. So the pausing, because this is a very important question that I get asked a lot of times. So I'll tell you a situation. So many students come to me like as a part of GMAT Wiz, I help a lot of students in strategizing the last few days before the test. So they come to me and say, okay, Piyush, you know what is happening with me? I've taken these many mocks and I start off the test well, but always in the last 10 questions, especially in verbal, like some people also face this in quant, depending on their strengths and weaknesses. But especially in verbal, for the last 10 questions, I'm left with like 10 minutes and I mess up my entire accuracy over there. I'm hardly able to get 3 questions correct in that timeline. How do I move forward from here? What do I do? And then this kind of questions come to me, and I say, why do you care? Like, if you have 10 questions and 10 minutes left, I understand that it's, you should try to improve that, but that's not a very bad situation to be in. If you are able to get the first 26 questions correct properly, if you're able to get them most of them right, last 10 with 10 minutes is not that bad a situation. Obviously, if your first 26 is also poor, then obviously the last 10 minutes, 10 questions is a bad situation to be in. But I come across a lot of people who says that okay, the initial first 26 questions are pretty much like 80-90% correct, and the last 10 questions they're actually faltering on. So that's what they face, the issues they face. So the rationale and the advice that I give to those people at that point of time is that, see, many people make a mistake that in the last 10 questions, if you have 10 minutes left, they try to do every question in the last 10 minutes by giving 1 minute to each question. And it's not like they want to do that. Sometimes it's just the pressure of the test that makes them do it, that they don't think about what they're doing and they just give into the pressure and try to go hit the panic button and try to do everything in just 1 minute per question time, kind of a scenario. So next point is to make sure that you pause at the right places. And just to give you a better idea of this, let me discuss a case in point with you. So I remember when I was taking the test myself, towards the end of the verbal section, I was left with 14 questions and there were just 19 minutes remaining on the clock. Okay, 14 questions and 19 minutes remaining on the clock. That was the situation that I was in. And I saw RC passage which was weird and convoluted. I remember it was on humanities, which is, by the way, a topic which I don't like a lot myself. And I actually basically focused, like I saw that passage and I was really worried that what is that I do, because you understand, like 14 questions, 19 minutes. If you look at this equation, sorry, 14 questions, 19 minutes. If you look at this equation, that's less than 1.5 minutes per question. Okay, that's less than 1.5 minutes per question. And I remember I was obviously in a pressure situation that time of time. I spent 30 seconds on reading the passage. Okay, and I probably read the first 2-3 lines. That was a small para, like the first para was very small, 2-3 lines, I guess. I read the first 2-3 lines, and after reading that, I was never not able to understand a single thing. I just knew that it is about doctors and nurses, but I did not understand like anything more than that out of it. The reason probably for that was I was trying to read it too fast. I was in that pressurized situation. So it was a weird passage, a convoluted passage. If you were in my place, try to imagine yourself in my place for a moment. If you were in my place, what is that you will do? If you were in my place, you have 14 questions remaining in the test and you have 19 minutes left. What is that you will do in this situation? Okay. So if you were in my place, what is that you will do in this situation? Let me hear your thoughts in the chat. Guess the answer and move ahead. Probably read very lightly and sum the RC fast. Pranay says that, and Sahil also believes similar thing. Guess the answers, and Sahil says guess the answers. He's not even saying spend any time on that. Okay, what about others? I have about 40 people live watching the session. Please, guys, go ahead and share your thoughts. Read the detailed question and find the detail and guess. Okay. So selectively answer questions. Avoid extreme language questions. Okay. Skip the RC. Focus on CR and ST. So Manti says. Okay. What about others, guys? 4 responses till now. I wait for another 10-15 seconds. All right. Okay. I see that others are still very shy, not too sure what to do. Many of you might not have faced the situation, but you need to face the situations. Please make sure that you are getting yourself exam ready. Like be in this kind of situations through the mocks. Like if you take mocks, you will be in one of these situations sometimes, and you will have to strategize for this because possible that you can actually fall in one of these cases. I would skip and look for areas where I'm more stronger, is what Ashish says. So, Ashish, if you're weak in RC, probably that definitely makes sense. But you have to understand that probably this strategy which most of you have mentioned will not be the best one. I'll help you understand that. Try to understand this with the example. Okay, let's say you try to skip some of the questions or you do them half-heartedly. Okay, let's take that scenario. That if you think of doing that, okay, I will just do the detailed questions maybe, or I'll just do some of the questions, or I'll just skip the entire passage. Something like this. If you try to do, let's analyze what happens then. And this is exactly what I did at that point of time. Like when I spent 30 seconds on reading the passage I told you, right? But then I was not able to understand anything. And I told myself, I stopped at that very moment. And I told myself, Piyush, this is not your usual self. You don't read passages that fast, usually. You don't read passages that fast, usually. You spend time on reading the passages properly and then you solve questions. So I took 20 seconds pause. I took a 20-second pause at that point of time. I remember I took a 20-second pause, stopped the test, put my pen down, and analyzed the situation. And I'm just telling you how did I analyze the situation at that point of time. I'm not asking you to buy my answer. Okay. I'm asking you to just understand and analyze the situation before jumping to a conclusion. So what I thought to myself was, I told myself was that, okay, right now I'm getting a hard passage. I'm getting a convoluted passage, right? And I was a prepared student. I was not someone who just went ahead and took the test. I was a student who was prepared for the test. I knew my capabilities at that point of time. So if a passage is looking convoluted or difficult to read, what does it mean? What does it mean, guys? If I'm getting a passage, this is difficult to read. What does it mean? Yes, Somanti, did happen. This happened in official GMAT. I'm not talking about a mock test. This was my actual attempt on the test. Yagnesh, for verbal, you're looking for some advice. I'll just give you that. So again, this session is not devoted to verbal. So I'm giving you a recording link of one of our sessions, which was dedicated to verbal. So you can check out that. That will help you in basically improving your verbal scores. In fact, this is a very all-time favorite webinar for verbal score improvement. This is probably one of the best webinars that you can get. So I'm just going to give you the link, guys, in case anyone of you is interested in watching this out. I see a lot of questions about how to improve RC and all of that. So you can probably go ahead, check out this verbal score improvement webinar. This is a strategy webinar, guys. So you'll actually understand a lot about verbal score improvement from here. Okay. Ability level is very high. Questions would be easy. Prana says, are you sure, Prana, about this? Questions would be easy if the passage is tough. It is difficult for everyone. Okay, that's a valid point. Eyes go blank. You're scoring high. Sambhavna. Valid point. Very valid point. Test is going good, Akash is leading to higher score. Exactly the point, guys. That's how I analyze. So till now I have completed 22 questions. I have left with 14 questions. That means I have done 22 questions. Okay. I am seeing a hard passage. That means that my test is going well. My test is going well right now. I have done well in the test, because of which the question now is a hard question. Now, when you take the GMAT, you want the test to be difficult, right? You want the test to become difficult, because if the test goes to like the hard level, that means you're gonna score well. So I have done my best till now to kind of get to a level where the test is giving me hard questions. So if I try to skip the questions, okay, if I try to skip some of the questions or do some of them selectively, I'm actually doing a very, very wrong, a foolish thing in simple terms, because I am going to get this high value or hard questions wrong by doing them half-heartedly. And trust me, guys, the first 27 questions on GMAT verbal matter the most. They make or break the entire game. I have looked at thousands of USRs in my career. This RC was in the third quarter itself. I cannot skip the passage in the third quarter. Some of you are saying that, okay, skip the RC, do SC and CRs. That is what I did exactly in the last 10 questions. But for this RC, I did not do this. Are you getting the reason why? Because these are high value questions. If I get them wrong, I'm doing a foolish thing. I'm not just getting the high value questions wrong. The worst part is, because I get this high value questions wrong, what will happen next? Any idea? What will happen next? If I get these high value questions wrong, what will happen next? Think about it, guys. What will happen next if you get the high value questions wrong? Score will drop. Easier questions will come. Exactly. Easier question will come. So the next set of 10 questions that you will get will be low value questions. So what you are trying to do over here is you are trying to draw, like, save time from on the hard value questions. You are trying to cut corners on the hard value questions, and you are saving time for which questions? You are saving time for low value questions. How foolish that is. Imagine that. And obviously, if you don't take this 20-second pause, guys, if you don't think straight, the instinctive reaction, the instinctive reaction of any human being will be to go fast. My instinctive reaction exactly was that. My instinct told me to go fast. That's why I wasted this 30 seconds. Right? But this 20-second pause helped me. If I would have fallen for this, if I would have skipped the passage, I would have probably ended up with a verbal 36 to 39 kind of a score only, anywhere between this. I wouldn't have gotten to a level where I would have scored a 41 on verbal. What I thought was that, oh, I'm getting a hard passage, so let me give this passage enough time and get this right. You won't believe me, like, this is difficult, right? 30 seconds I have spent, 20 seconds I have given to pausing. After that, I remember I gave 5 minutes to just read the passage. Just read the passage. And then I took another 3 minutes to solve 4 questions. That was the best part. Some of you are saying that, okay, if the RC passage is difficult, the questions will be easier. I won't completely say that. I would say if the RC passage is difficult and if you understand the passage well, the questions will become easier. Let me put it that way. And that's what happened with me. I spent 5 minutes on just reading the passage. I did not solve any question that time. 5 minutes to just read the passage. And then 3 minutes to solve 4 questions. I got every one of these 4 questions correct. I had 100% accuracy in the third quarter. And my equation, which was 14 questions, 19 minutes, that changed to, because of this 9 minutes I spent, that equation changed to 10 questions, 10 minutes. Imagine that, guys. But the good thing was, since I got the hard value questions, high value questions correct, the next 10 questions which were served to me were even more challenging. They were even more difficult, and they carried higher weightage. They were valued more. And all I did was in this 10 minutes, 10 questions, I did not try to do all 10 of them. I just selectively did 6 questions of SC and CR. That's all. And selectively just did 6, got all of them correct. All the 6 correct. Just randomly guessed 4 questions. My verbal score was of 41. And this itself was the difference between me scoring a 700 and a 740. Had I actually not taken that 20-second pause, guys, had I not stopped during the test, had I given to that pressure, I would have probably scored a 36 on the verbal section. Who knows? And my score would have been stuck at a 700. I might not be able to apply to the tier 1 schools. The reason I saw that increase was because of that pause. I started thinking. And please make sure that you understand that. Ashish says, so Piyush, you need to say you should spend time to get these questions right instead of trying best to complete the rest of the remaining questions. Exactly the point, Ashish. That's what I'm trying to tell you. This might be counterintuitive, but there are proven results. Let me give you 2 more data points, guys. My student, tier A, okay? This guy had 30 seconds to answer the last 3 questions. The last 3 questions in verbal. Okay, this guy had 30 seconds to answer those questions. He did not focus on getting the last quarter questions correct. He focused on the first 3 quarters. Scored a verbal 44, guys. His score was a verbal 44. Imagine. Shreyash, another student of ours. By the way, this guy is joining HBS, converted HBS and bottom board. He has scored 760 on GMAT. This guy, in the last quarter, four mistakes, and he has a verbal 42. Okay? Think about this, Ashish. Four mistakes in the last quarter, and still a verbal 42. How come? Imagine that. So it's not about getting every question right. It's about getting those questions right that you are attempting. Making sure that whatever you attempt, you give your time to 100%. Like whatever time you spend on a question should be on the correct questions. That's the idea. So in case you want to watch out Shreyash's interview, we've covered this in depth. Shreyash himself talks about the last quarter and all of that. You can watch out his interview over here. The link is over here. How many mistakes can you afford to make in the first 3 quarters? So Sambhavna, that's again getting into too much depth on that, but about 3-4 mistakes is what you can afford to do. Should not be consecutive either. So in case you're interested in test taking strategy webinar, which is a much more in-depth webinar, you can check out this recording later on. Whenever you want, you can check out this recording which I've just shared with you in the chat over here. All right. Okay. Any other question? How to prepare for retake? First score was 650, but aiming for 700 plus. Again, that's another different discussion. I see a lot of questions around that. So let me share another recording, guys, in case anyone of you is interested, who is struggling in the low 600 range and wants to improve the score to 700 plus. You can check out this webinar recording. Last one, I've just shared that in the chat. So you can check out this webinar. This will help you in understanding that, guys. But anyway, moving forward. So, strategic pausing. And one more simple mathematical calculation I'll show you guys. One simple mathematical calculation. So many people say, okay, Piyush, how can I pause during the test? If I'm actually running behind schedule, if I take another 30-40 seconds break. In fact, I ask students that if you are in pressure situation, it is okay to even take a break of 1 minute if required. 1 minute break is also okay. Put your pen down if you are not feeling comfortable, if you are feeling anxious, if you have those many challenges during the test. It's okay to put your pen down, take a break of 1 minute. And people say, okay, if I'm running behind time, how does taking a break of 1 minute help? Let's use simple mathematics. Okay, let's say you have 10 minutes in it. Okay, and if you're feeling pressurized, you're not using your usual methods, you're working under pressure, you'll probably work at 50% of your capacity. Okay, 50% capacity. If you work at 50% capacity, out of this 10 minutes, effectively you will be able to utilize 5 minutes. But let's say you take 1 minute pause. 1 minute pause, I'm saying, not 30-second pause. You take a 1 minute pause, that's a long pause. You take, calm yourself down, calm your head down, and then remaining 9 minutes are there with you. Even if you work at 80% of your capacity, I'm not saying 100%, if you work at 100% capacity, the math becomes better. If you work at 80% of the capacity, you still have 7.2 minutes of effective time, which is definitely better than 5 minutes of effective time, right? And if your the pressure comes to you at, let's say, middle of the test, when 30 minutes are remaining, and the last 30 minutes you are in a pressure situation working at 50% capacity, God save you. That's a very bad situation to be in. Please make sure that you take pauses in between the tests whenever required, but don't put work under that pressurized situation. So that's my recommendation. Any questions on this, feel free to ask me. I'm more than happy to take them up. And again, guys, I'm taking the session at a very slow pace today. I want to make sure that I take up more of your questions than the agenda that is there. Okay, guys. So some of you are saying I want to get a 710 to 780. Samishta says I want to improve from a 620 to 700. So guys, I would need to understand your use case better. What is your current skill level and everything. So please feel free to schedule a call with me. I'll be more than happy to kind of have a discussion one-on-one with you and help you out there. Okay, so Rahul says Mr. 700 is no good. Again, Rahul, I understand 700 is not as great as 780 or 750, but one thing is for sure that even 700 is sufficient in many cases. So that depends completely on their profile. I have seen a lot of my students who have scored even a 680 and got interview calls from the likes of INSEAD, Kellogg, MIT, LBS, we talk about top B schools. They have been called by top B schools. So it's not just about the score. It's also about a lot of about your profile and your application. But I understand the better the score, the higher your chances. That is there. How much you scored in Quant to get a 740? Sahil, my score was a Quant 50 and a verbal 41. GMAT score is just a parameter of it. Yes, exactly, Ashish. So thank you for chiming in. What is the process in one-on-one call? So Ashwin, generally in the one-on-one call, we kind of understand your requirements. Basically, what is that you're looking for from the GMAT? We understand what all have you done, and we help you in understanding how to move forward from here and how GMAT Wiz can help you in achieving that goal. How good is a 700 for a BBA student? And again, Pranay, that's a very generic question. I will not be able to take that up for you right now. And not the session discussion for the session either, basically. So please feel free to connect with us on the call link that I have shared with you, and we can help you with there. So the next part, which is very important for the pacing, is also the right section order. Now, this seems to be a very, let's say, something which people think is too obvious. Some people still make an error with that. So I was thinking, should I include this in the session today or not? But I felt it should be included because many people don't follow the right section order, and that's where they make a lot of mistakes. So what I mean by section order is that in GMAT, you can start with verbal, then move to quant, or you can start with quant, then move to verbal. There's another section order which is the worst section order. I don't recommend that. One of these two is what works best for most people. Generally, people start with this quant and then move to verbal. Very less people try with verbal first and quant later. So I would recommend that you should be understanding in which order will you perform best. Now there are two schools of thought in that. The first school of thought is basically that you start strong. And this is what I believed in for the initial 90% of my prep. Initial 90% of my prep, all my mocks, I focused on starting strong, starting with the verbal, the quant section. And I thought that this works best for me, unless I switched until I switched to the second school of thought. And now I actually tell people, I advocate that second school of thought is generally better, works better for me, generally better. You should definitely try both. So first school of thought says you start with a stronger section to gain confidence and then move on to the weak areas, basically. The second school of thought says that you utilize focus. You are most active initially. So if you start with a weak section, you can give your 100%. You can give your 100% to your weak section and get your score up. And then with your stronger section, you can still manage it with less attention also. That's what the second school of thought is. I would say that try both of them in different marks and see in which test, which one works best for you. Okay, Ashish says, I guess with a fresh mind, you should go with a section you're stronger with. Ashish, exactly, that's how I used to think for first 90% of my prep. Okay, but when I started, I was too afraid of starting with my weak section. I was too afraid of doing that. But when I started doing that, trust me, I did that only for 10% marks, but that was enough. I started seeing that improvement in my confidence level and my scores also. This worked better for me. I'm not saying that this will work exactly the same for everyone, but in most of the cases, most of the students that I worked with, utilize focus is what they go for. First case will work better for people who require motivation in the beginning. If you're someone who gets demotivated very easily, you need motivation in the beginning to kind of continue with the test. This is something which you should do. You should start with a stronger section. And this is better for people who are actually, who require some time to warm up as well. Okay. Pranay says, always afraid to start with verbal, but when I did it, felt great. That's what I was talking about. Pranay, I was also very afraid of starting with verbal. That used to be my weaker area. I started with quant always, always. But when I started with verbal, I felt great. I felt confident my scores improved. Then I stuck to it. I understood the rationale behind that. Because if it's a weaker section that requires more focus, more attention. So if you're actually starting with your weaker section, that helps you in utilizing your focus and energy better. If you struggle with having attention, you have attention deficiency, you do better for a short span of time, and then you start to lose your focus and attention, then definitely second school of thought is the best one for you. And if you're really, really strong in your strong areas, then the second school of thought will be best for you as well. Okay, Joginder says, I'm a sub-inspector in police. Kindly tell me what a good score for me to get into a good B school. So, Joginder, you have to look at all other aspects of your profile as well. Just based on your profession, I can't exactly tell you what is the right good score And the definition of a good B school is also different for different people. But just to give you an approximate idea, 700 plus score is generally sufficient for a good B school. For an excellent B school, you require 730, 740 kind of a number minimum, generally. But just a general advice. How many questions you got right in which quarter? So Sahil has shared that in the session earlier. Like two in the first quarter, I made two mistakes in the first quarter, two mistakes in the second quarter, and three mistakes in the last quarter. No mistakes in the third quarter. That was my trend. Okay. Anuj, should you do both at a time or one at a time? That depends on how many hours you are studying. If you're studying for 20 hours or less, do one at a time. Now, that's about the right section order. Now, moving on to the next step, basically. But before that, a quick overview of what we do at GMAT. So just quickly about what we do at GMAT, if any of you is interested. We are world's only truly personalized course. We have actually changed the way students use technology or study for the GMAT using technology. So till date, like many courses say they are personalized, but in reality, they only do a part of what we did. And when we started, none of the courses were actually personalized, even if they claim to be personalized. Now, a lot of courses have taken inspiration from GMAT Wiz and tried to include personalization in their coursework, but still, they are still not at the same level as GMAT Wiz has been. So, what we started doing was we started believing in the idea that okay, every student needs a personalized study plan. So instead of basically giving a random study plan to everyone, which is like 1 month plan, 3 month plan, or 6 months plan, which does not adapt, by the way, which stays exactly the same throughout the course, doesn't work. If you are a student who is strong in a particular area and weak in a particular area, your study plan should also be the same way. It should be met with the same way. And you change during the study. So every student at GMAT Wiz gets a personalized study plan. It tells them exactly what they need to do in the current week, and the coursework is all adapted. Every course comes with real-time improvement modules. So if you're not doing well on certain topics, in real time, you will actually get to see some additional files, some additional modules which are focused on your weak areas to actually get you across those weak areas. And then every GMAT student gets a dedicated mentor that they can connect every 15 days to understand where they're headed, where their weak areas are, and how they can actually improve from basically the current skill level and go to the next skill level. Okay, so in case you're interested in checking out our course, you can actually use this link. I'm just giving you this link for checking out our free trial. And because of these factors, we have been GMAT Club's most effective course today when it comes to average score improvement. This data is slightly dated till December 2021, but even today, our average score improvement is very close to 100 points. And if you look at the average score improvements of some of our competitors, like Target Test Web, Magoosh, EasyMath, or Crackable, no one is in close vicinity of us. Even after having established brands, they obviously with better brands, they get more, let's say, stronger profiles to work with. But even with like decent students or average students, we have been able to deliver a much higher average score improvement, courtesy of the personalization that we do. So in case you're interested in checking out our services, you can create a free trial account for the same. And thank you, Ashish, for recommending the course. I'm happy to know that you're enjoying the course. That's really good to know. So the next step, which can actually help you get across the mark, basically, is getting a guide or a study buddy. So why this is important? Two reasons. If you get a guide, they can probably help you in understanding where exactly are you going wrong. So there are multiple problems that you might be facing. So possible problems with you right now. So many of you are saying that okay, I'm looking at a 620 to a 700 kind of a score. Someone was saying I was looking at a 700 to 750. So again, what is the problem that you're facing right now? What is the main issue where you're struggling? Why are you struggling? It could be concept specific. It could be module specific. It could be difficulty wise issue, as in you are facing issues with certain type of certain difficulty level of questions in certain topics only. It could be also be question type issues, or it could be because of poor timing or some other issues as well. So if you work with a guide or someone who knows the GMAT inside out, they can actually help you in understanding that. The second benefit of a guide is not just someone who knows the GMAT inside out, sometimes a different opinion you get. Like you are so engrossed in yourself, in your studies, you're not able to look at it from distance. You're not able to understand the problems because you're too close to it. You need someone who is distant enough to kind of help you with that. The second thing that you can do is get a study buddy. And I recommend this a lot. In fact, I did this. I worked with a study buddy. This guy was again having a complementary skill set, helped me. In fact, I had another study buddy who was having a similar skill set as me. So if possible, find someone with complementary skill set. And I'm not just talking about quant versus verbal. That okay, that's obvious. That okay, if you are good in quant, someone else is good in verbal. You guys team up and you do well. You also look at section-wise strengths. You can also look at section-wise strengths. Some people might be good at sentence correction, others might be good at RC. If you kind of team up, you probably might help each other in that way. And try to find someone who is in the same time zone as you, if possible. If you can meet them and study, that's always also better because that also helps you. But at least in the same time zone, and also ensure that the person is equally committed as you are for the test. So these are 2, 3 things which I would recommend to find a study buddy. So you guys can go ahead and even create forum like just topics on GMAT Club trying to find study buddies. In fact, there is a page on GMAT Club for study buddies as well. I did see that long time back. Not sure if they're running it still, but you can search if there are existing places in GMAT Club where you can find a study buddy. And anyone of you who knows about it, please feel free to share the link over here. I'll be more than happy to share that with the class. But yeah, otherwise you can always create new threads. But please make sure that you get a study buddy. Just to give you an idea, there was this guy Mandar who came to us with a 670 on GMAT. I remember this story very, very well because he had just 1 month before the dates were coming in for Kellogg and Cornell and NCR and a few other schools that he applied to. He wanted to improve his score significantly. And he knew that he had been preparing for like close to 6 months at that point of time. So he had a lot of weaknesses that you knew about, but there were other issues that he was not sure of. So he wanted proper advice, and that's when basically the GMAT Wiz mentors came into picture. He worked very closely with Shreyash. He used our online course. He worked very closely with Shreyash, and he was able to pull up the score from a 670 to a 750 in a matter of just 1 month. So again, in case you want to understand how a proper guide can help you and how you can get the similar kind of an improvement, you can watch out Mandar's interview in depth over here. I have just shared the link. You can check it out at your convenience, and you can actually understand from there that how can the study guide help you. So that's the second point. Any questions on this? Any questions on the study guide or the study buddy thing, do let me know. Okay, Rahul says dead group. So it's possible, Rahul. I saw that post 2, 3 years back, I guess. So you can always create a new forum post on GMAT Club looking at study buddies and share your profiles. That's something which you can always do. Okay. So next step that can help you improve your score. Focused fine tuning, not just fine tuning, focused fine tuning. Now, what do I mean by focused fine tuning? Focused fine tuning basically means understanding exactly what are your core problems, in which areas you have conceptual gaps, in which areas you have application gaps. So one way to do this is if you have an error log of your own, where you have maintained an error log to see actually in which topics what is the score, in which module what is the score. Like all depends on how detailed an error log have you kept. So if you have created a proper error log, you can look at it this way, that if your score is less than 60% in a particular topic consistently, that means you are having conceptual gaps in that. Okay. And if your score is 60 to 85% between that, then you have application gaps in that. Okay. So that's what basically that means. So if you have conceptual gaps, then try to revise the formulas and concepts once again. Don't just try to do more questions. That's not going to help you. First, revise the formulas and concepts. That is going to help you. And once you are done with that, then learn how to solve questions and practice 15 to 20 questions on that particular topic. On the other hand, if you have application gaps, then focus more on learning the method, basically. That's something which is much more important. And practice 10, 15 questions using that. And if your issue is timing, instead of, let's say, the accuracy, if your timing is an issue, then identify the core timing issue. For example, let's say it's possible that it's concept specific, that you're taking extra time in specific topics. For example, in, let's say, boldface in CR, your timing is high, but your timing is not high in the other parts of CR. In word problems, your timing is high in PNC, but not the other parts of word problems. Or maybe in SC, your timing is high in comparison type of questions, parallelism comparison type of questions, but not in other part type of questions. So then this is concept specific. You have to kind of improvise on the concept part of it. Basically, that is very, very critical. If, on the other hand, your timing is application like specific to a module itself, for example, in general, in critical reasoning, you take extra time. In general, any type of question in critical reasoning, you take extra time. That means you have application problem, as in your methodology needs to improve. So identify exactly where your problem lies, and then create an action plan based on that. Okay. So in focused fine tuning, you should devote about 70% of your time on the weak areas solely, and this should ideally be done in the last 30 days before the test. Like, again, depends. 15 to 30 days, last 15 to 30 days, you should start devoting 70% of your time on weak areas solely. Okay. And the rest of the time you should divide among mocks and general practice. General practice is even your stronger areas you should practice that. Okay. So Ashish, I'll talk about the last one before the test as well. Don't worry about that. And in this duration, you can use the advanced official guide of 700 level questions as required. Again, if you're a GMAT Wiz student, you can get a lot of questions of 700 level from the GMAT Wiz question bank, which is the Wiz quiz as well. Okay. So please make sure that you do focused fine tuning. And for that, error log is very important, and that's why GMAT has created a core weakness analysis engine on our platform, where we use AI to kind of not just give you data. You know, there's a lot of data available on the bottom. If you scroll down, I'm not showing it as a scroll down position, but if one scroll down, they will get to see a lot of data below these charts, also telling them exact weaknesses and strengths. But you can let the AI also analyze your weakness and categorize them into all the different buckets. So we use AI to kind of help you understand where you are conceptually weak, where you are having issues with fine tuning, and where you are having issues with timing. If you're conceptually weak, at a click of a button, you can actually get to revise those videos specifically. So you don't just get to know that, okay, this is where you're conceptually weak. We make your life easy by enabling you to click on a button and get videos specific to that. So just go through these topics to improve your conceptual understanding. Then click on solidify concept, get a quiz created for that, basically. You click on fine tuning concepts, you get a quiz specific to your weak areas. The timing is decided based on that and everything. So if you want, you can get access to this through the GMAT Wiz platform as well. Now, the next part, reviewing the solutions properly. So a lot of people, and this is something Samanti is saying, that how to implement what you already know. So this is also very important, Samanti, that when you are improving or focusing on improving your scores, you don't just look at doing more and more questions. Don't just assume that your methods are correct. It is very important that when you are solving questions, you also look at the solutions to see how the approach was. Like, how should you have gone about the question? What was the method all about? So if you look at the methodology, then you can actually understand whether what you are doing was right or wrong with respect to the actual method that should have been followed. For example, this is a CR question. I'm not going to solve this question, by the way. I'm just asking you to spend a minute to just read the question stem. Just spend 1 minute to analyze and read the question stem, and then I'm gonna tell you basically how to read the solutions or review the solutions. That's very important. Okay. So I'm giving you 1 minute. I'm gonna be muted for the next 1 minute. Just try to read the question stem properly. All right, guys, I hope you would have read the argument by now. As I said, our objective is not to solve this question. Our objective is to learn something from this question. The main objective is to help you understand how to review the solution. So let's say you solve this CR question. How do most people analyze? B is the right answer, Amrita, but I'm not going to solve this question, as I already told you earlier. Basically, when you're looking at a question stem, after solving the question, generally what people do is they look at the right option, the wrong option, or whatever they mark, and they try to basically see whether they got it right or not, and they only look at option analysis. They only ask, okay, why is B right, C wrong? Why is B right, D wrong, or something like that. But even before that, even if you get the question right, you should first focus on whether you are able to understand the stimulus completely or the argument completely. Because see, in verbal, the question contains the answer. Again, it may not be directly there in the answer, but you can infer from the information provided. The answer can be inferred from that. In quant, you have to do calculations. You need to know formulas and everything to answer the question. But in verbal, everything is there in the question stem. At least in CR and RC, everything is there in the question stem. I see you need to know some rules of grammar, that is true. But it is all about understanding the context. So If you're just solving and solving and solving questions without looking at the solutions properly and making sure that you are able to understand the context correctly, you're only utilizing the solutions halfway and not giving your 100% to it. So it's very important that you look at the solutions and you understand the solutions inside out and look at the method that you follow. So for example, in this question, after solving the question, even if you get it right, ask yourself that when you read the first sentence, did you analyze it in this way or not? Did you analyze in this way that when after reading the first sentence and just the first sentence? Similarly, when you read the second sentence, did you combine this piece of information with this piece of information and did you come to this inference? If you did not come to this inference, you have made a mistake. Even if you get the question right, you still have a scope for improvement. Similarly, you'll read this part and you'll ask yourself, okay, when I read this information, did I combine it with the previous information and did I come up with this inference? So this is how you should go about analyzing the solutions. And that holds the key for many, many people to improve their scores. This is something which can drastically change your scores in the coming time because it can help you in understanding exactly where you're going wrong and how to work on those specific areas. Just to give you an idea, one of our students, Akshat, he took the test, got a 650 on the GMAT. He looked at this course and he realized that CR and RC is where he's weak. Okay? The next attempt, he got a 730. And it's just 24 days, guys. Just a gap of 24 days between these two attempts. You see, this guy improved his CR and RC significantly. And how did he do so? He did so by basically improving in understanding of the methodologies. He started looking at the solutions better, basically. He started looking at the solutions in depth for the correct answers too. I will share the link for the live interview of Akshat as well in case anyone of you wants to check out his complete interview, you can do that. And in the interview also he would actually talk about this. But he made sure that he reviews the solutions in depth for the correct answers too. And while doing that, like while solving the questions itself, he tried to kind of identify patterns in the incorrect answers. I still remember when we were having this discussion, Akshat and he mentioned that answer. He'll even write down his notebook that okay, this choice is basically distorted version of what is presented, or this is something which is out of scope, or this is something which is irrelevant to the discussion, or this is something which is opposite to the discussion. So he would write down those things in the notebook, and while looking at the solutions, he will kind of match whether the rationale that he used is matching with the rationale that is there or not. Something which is very critical. Now, this is something in GMAT which we provide for every question. You'll see which whether this choice is relevant or opposite or something like that. So you can definitely utilize that. And then he revisited his weak areas to improve his understanding. Okay. So please make sure that you analyze the solutions better. And the last thing which can help you in improving your scores, especially retakers, is anxiety management. So there are some don'ts that you have to keep in mind. You should not be doing any of these to make sure that you manage your anxiety better. Okay. Number one, don't take too many mocks. Don't take too many mocks, guys. It's a very bad thing which people do. I'll take two use cases. Okay, take two different use cases to explain these pointers. Don't keep a target of questions, the number of questions that okay, I am going to do 40 questions in a day, 60 questions every single day. Don't do that. I'll take two use cases. Use case number one, Rajiv. Okay, this student came to us with a 680 on the GMAT. Worked with us, wanted to improve his score. He really planned his studies properly. For the first 2-3 months, he planned his studies exactly the way we wanted him to, focused on doing everything in the correct possible order. But then anxiety kicked in. He blocked the date of the test 1 month later. And when the clock started ticking, he felt the pressure. And he planned to take one mock test every other day, 15 mock tests in a month. He came to me with the idea. I was working with him as a mentor. Came to me with the idea. I straightforward rejected the idea. I said, this is not going to work. It is only going to increase your anxiety, Rajiv. And he said, no, if I'm in the zone, if I'm practicing a lot of questions, then I tend to do better. Did not agree to me, took the test anyway, improved his score, but just got to a 700. Sorry, my bad. I don't remember exactly, 690 or 700. As far as I remember, yeah, it was a 690. So he improved his score by just 10 points. And this guy was scoring 740s on the mock straight. but 690 on the actual GMAT. What next? Not happy? Planned for another attempt. 15 days to 1 month later. Don't remember the exact timeline, but 15 days to 1 month later. Same strategy. I'll do a lot of mocks. I'll practice a lot of questions because that's how I do better. Took the GMAT again, scored a 700. So many questions solving, so many questions he was practicing, so many marks he was taking. Still, just a 10-point improvement. Not what he deserved. Definitely not what he deserved. Now, he said, Piyush, I've taken 2 attempts. I've done what I felt was right. Now you tell me what to do. I said, now you will take the test after a month or 1.5 months. But in this 1.5 or 1 month, you're not going to take more than 2 mock tests. That's all that you will do. You'll not practice enough. You'll reduce your study time to 1/2 or 1/3, and that's how you'll go for with that. Did that, took just 2 marks in the entire duration, was able to get to a 740 in the next attempt itself. He's joining USC Marshall this year. That's the story. And it's not just one story. Another guy, G1. This guy came to us with a 710 on GMAT. Studied with us, used our course, studied properly, got a decent improvement in the mocks. He was taking Manhattan mocks, straight 750s. In fact, less than 750 he was not getting. But same story. He said, I am a hard taskmaster. I do well if I take a lot of tests before the actual day. And he took what about every single day for the 10-15 days he was taking 1 mock test, or he was taking a lot of sectional tests and all of that. He was only able to get to a 730 in actual GMAT. Then it took about 3 months, GMAT, the next GMAT after 3 months, basically. And in those 3 months, he did not prepare a lot. He started working on his applications as well on the side and took hardly 2-3 mocks in that entire duration, got a 760 on that next day. And many other stories are like this. Then I have a question, but why so? Because we have always heard that you should give many marks, any specific reason. Pranav, understand. Why so? See, when you take too many mock tests, why do you take too many mock tests? What is the reason of taking so many mock tests? You might tell me that, Piyush, I want to get accustomed to the test. I want to be prepared for all kinds of situations. But in reality, the reason why you take 1 or 2 mock tests every single day is because you want an additional confirmation from every single test that you're taking that you're capable enough of scoring that much. You want that confirmation, you want that reinforcement, you want that external reinforcement. That is something which actually creates a question mark in your head. And if you're taking too many mocks, you're burning yourself out as well. You need to give your 100% on the day of the test. So don't take too many mock tests. I don't recommend that. Second thing, you don't improve by taking mocks. You improve by taking small section tests on your weak areas. So Sahil has the next question. Can you please repeat what to do if not mocks? If not mocks, take a sectional test from your weak areas. Focus on your weaknesses. There's no point in taking a full-length mock if you're still weak. So don't try to take too many questions. My problem is not just with the mock test. It could be because even if you're taking too many sectional tests, but you're taking just tests and tests, you're not analyzing, you're not learning from the solutions. That's the problem. And that's why I've kept point number 2 as well. Don't keep a target of number of questions. Try to learn from every question that you solve. See the solution. Akshat, recollect that example which I was talking about. You know what this guy did in the improvement, like 650 to 730 in 24 days is not an easy improvement. But in these 24 days, now he reduced his study time to 50%. Earlier, he was studying for 4 hours daily. Now he reduced his study time to 50% of that. He started studying just 2 hours. And he in his interview himself tells me that, Piyush, it helped me in understanding my problems better. Because when I was studying so much, I was so engrossed into it that I was not able to look at the core problem and understand the core problem. Pranav says, yes, I have felt same with my sectionals also. Was taking 2 sectionals a day for verbal and my score went on decreasing, but took a break for a week and gave 1 sectional test, got my best score. Exactly the point, Pranav. So that's what I'm trying to say, that you should not burn yourself out also. It is not just about mock tests, it could be about sectional tests, it could be about even normal questions that you're practicing. Don't burn yourself out. Make sure that you give yourself enough time to analyze. And don't increase your study time close to your GMAT at least. Anxiety leads makes you do that. Don't increase your study time. These are general advice, guys. In some cases, increasing study time also helps. In some cases, I also recommend increasing study time, and that's why I said working with a guide can help you understand those edge cases. But in general, don't increase your study time a lot. You need to relax a little. So, what to do to manage your anxiety? Meditate daily. Proper meditation, 30 minutes meditation is very, very helpful. Akshat did it, Rajiv did it, a lot of our students do it. Helps in reducing anxiety a lot. Second thing, take mock tests around your test lot. Okay, generally, like I recommend that. Someone was asking, I think Ashish was asking what to do 1 week before the test. Take a sectional test or mock test, any test around the test slot. So you are very active during that time. Like you are not feeling anxious during that time. Like that time of the day you are most active. And maybe you can start working on your essays. If you want to apply to a B school, start thinking about that B school, start looking at the goal, start looking at the essays, divert your attention, look at the bigger picture. That will help you. That will help you manage your anxiety better. Some people might think, okay, that will put extra pressure on me that I need to get a better score. But trust me, that's a positive reinforcement. If you look at essays, you start working on essays, you start writing your story, you start thinking. In fact, in many cases, if you start looking at essays and you have done good things in your career, you know that there are some great things that you can talk about in the essays. That also takes off pressure from you for a high GMAT score, because you know if you write your essays well, you can maybe get a call with a low score as well. I'm not saying that you should get a low score, but at least it will take off some pressure off you. Start looking at essays, start looking at the school principles, start looking at what the school is really looking at in a candidate. Try to find the thing, try to find the commonalities. These things will help you in reducing their anxiety levels. Okay, so guys, that was all from my side. 5 quick tips. I wanted to keep this session really concise and keep it as open-ended as possible. Did not keep too many slides for the specific reason. Any questions that you guys have right now, I'm open to those discussions. You can reach out to me on piyush@gmatwiz.com as well. And then there is a WhatsApp number which I have also shared on the screen. So in case you guys are interested, you can also ping me on WhatsApp, or if you want to just block a time on our calendar to have a discussion with our team and understand how we can help you get your dream score and dream B school, we can definitely help you do that as well. So you can use this link to schedule a call with me. But I'm more than happy to take up your questions now. So please feel free to shoot your questions at me. I'm gonna be here for the next 4, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, all that it takes to answer your questions, guys. Thanks, Piyush. I got a nice insight in verbal. That's great to know, Ashish. Happy. And since you're a GMAT student, please do stay in touch with your mentors if you have not been in touch till now. If you have been in touch, that's great too. That's good. But be in touch with your mentors and take their guidance, and they will definitely help you in improving your scores further. So, Bhavna, you're welcome. I am happy to know that you found the session helpful. Thank you, Ashwin, as well, for your thoughts. Ankush says I'm at a quant 49 in a verbal 40. How to crack a 45? So Ankush, if you're at a verbal 40, that means there is one area in verbal out of SCCR and RC in which you're not performing well. That's a more likely scenario. There's another scenario that you're equally good in all three of them, or closely good in all three of them. So most likely, if it is the first or the former, then working on that particular area is going to help you improve to up to a 43, 44. 45, if you want to reach, you need to improve the other two as well. So what I feel is required in your case is basically fine tuning your approach. There are some small gaps which are there, and you need to improve that. So in case you are interested in talking to us, working with us for this improvement, we have helped many people get high verbal 40s as well. So you can get in touch with our team. Any final points on best practice strategy? So Nirvan, the best practice strategy is to start with your analysis, understand where your gaps are, and divide 70% of your time on doing those questions from the weak areas. And one important thing which I forgot completely, I wanted to talk about, and good that Nirvan you talked about this. Even from the weakest areas, you should not be getting any easy or medium questions on. So the best practice strategy would be to ensure that even from the weak areas, you're at least able to get all the easy and medium questions right. And after solving each question, If you're taking, let's say, 20 minutes quiz, spend about 40 minutes, 50 minutes on analysis of the quiz. Okay, that will help you. Happy to know that you found the session helpful, Sahil. If you guys found the session helpful, do give it with a thumbs up. That will really motivate us to do more and more such sessions in the future. How much in verbal with Quant 49 to get 740? So with a 49 in Quant, you need a 41 minimum, 42 also to get a 740. So 41, like 41 is the verbal score that you should aim for if you want to get a 740 with a Quant 49. Basically. I hope that answers your question, Sahil. Okay. All right, guys. So I don't see any other questions, but in case you guys have any thoughts, any questions, you can reach out to me. I've shared the link for the for the call booking and other things with me. You can also find them in the description below. That will help me in getting to that. Thank you so much, Nidhan. Getting 25 questions right out of 36. So accuracy wise, I'm not that far off. I would say, Sahil, a little more improvement is required. But what I feel is that where you are getting the questions right is what matters also. So you probably are not getting enough questions correct in the first 3 quarters. Okay, so please focus on that. And in case anyone of you is interested in checking out the GMAT services, you can check out by creating a free trial account on our website as well. I've just shared the link for it. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm really, really happy to have had this discussion. It was great talking to you guys, and I would be coming back again, hopefully in a month or so for another session. All the best, guys. So Sahil, how to improve in CR? I'm gonna give you a link for CR as well. Just give me 1 second. So we have done sessions on CR, so you can check out this session recording. This will help you in understanding the right strategy for critical these. You're welcome, Sonia. Thank you so much, guys. This is Piyush Beriwala signing off. Have a great day ahead.